My spirit world thrives with life. My soul illuminates the primeval world. Every blade of grass and every flying insect reflects an aspect of me. The immaterial to the material, the sword instructs. Bind your soul world to the chi of heaven and earth. I feel my world expand as I suck in the chi. What is the soul world? I ask as I come out of meditation. The sword glows. It is you. Every tree and beast in the land, it tells your story. Whether or not you can read it is up to you. It's peaceful, I think. The road ahead of me is long, and I see dark clouds on the horizon. As the clouds encroach on me, I prepare myself for rain. A mighty pine tree serves as my shelter, as fat water droplets pool on the ground beyond. As I wait for the storm to pass, I think on my life. A vagabond and a nomad, without ties to the land. It's not a bad life, but things like family and friends are distant concepts. A drop of water sneaks past the pine needles to land on my head. I move out of the way. What's on your mind, partner? I look to the sword before turning back to watch the rain bounce off the ground. Just thinking. The sword hums. I've done a lot of thinking over the ages. I nod as I watch a sapling get battered by the rain. What's it all for? I ask, as I feel an existential crisis well up from within me. Fighting, the sword says flatly. I chuckle. For you, maybe. Then what about you? The sword asks. What do you think it's all about? If I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't have asked the question. Oh, come on. It's your mind. You must have some ideas. I think for a moment. Adventure isn't quite the truth, but it's close. You seek out what you do not know. I shrug as I see rays of sunlight peek out from behind the clouds. A short wait sees the last of the rain fade. My boots sink in the mud as I continue on my way. The sword happily talks about past bearers while I walk. If you were used by so many immortals, I ask, what happened to them all? Shouldn't they still be carrying you? That's a shallow view of immortality, the sword says. You mistake immortality for invincibility. It is true that immortals are powerful, but so too are their enemies. The Celestial War saw many shining stars fall. I don't know what the Celestial Pantheon looks like now, whether it's ruled by immortals or the gods. Celestial Pantheon, I echo. I've never heard of it. That's not surprising. Mortals aren't exactly in the loop on heavenly matters. I concede the point. After the shower, the meadows and forest I pass teem with life. I see yellow butterflies dancing in the air. As dusk comes over the land, I make camp. My meditation carries me into a world so familiar. Like the material world, I hear and see insects. My soul walks through a field of grass. I extend a hand out and feel the waist-high blades upon my fingers. The mere act of touching teaches me the plant's Tao. I spend seemingly minutes caught up in my exploration before opening my eyes to the material world. Night has passed, and early morning has come. How long can someone remain in the soul world? I ask. The sword is silent for a moment. There is a school of immortality that cultivates the soul world rather than refining it. Those dreamers dive deeply into their own souls. They rarely leave their own little world. So long as the world sustains them, they can remain in meditation indefinitely. Most find an immortal's cave and hide their physical bodies. Sounds lonely, I say. The sword laughs. I'd imagine it quite the opposite. I find my way to the walled-off city Jaril. There is a heavy atmosphere when I enter the streets. People hurry from building to building. The inn that I find is an old-looking establishment. A middle-aged woman minds the counter. "You new in town?" she asks. "Yes, ma'am." She eyes me evenly. "Why'd you come this far south?" I shrug. "I've never been here before. Seemed like the thing to do." Her lips twitch. "Listen," she says. "You'd best go back where you came from. The demons are getting ready to attack the walls down south. This isn't the time for sightseeing." I nod my understanding. I'd still like a room for the night. Of course. I find my way through the creaking building to find my room. Unburdened of my traveling gear, I walk out into the city streets. There are no food vendors, dealing out in the open, but I find a place to sit down for a meal. A watery stew with a single small piece of meat is presented for me. I don't complain as I pay for the subpar meal. Bored, I wonder if it's too early to go to a pub. Down a back alley, I hear a number of thumps and groans of pain. I turn the corner to see 3 young men kicking a fourth. The victim of the assault is in a ball, trying to endure the onslaught. "Hey," I call out. My hand goes to my sword as the assailants turn to me. "This is none of your concern," says the leading bully as he draws a knife. In one fluid motion, my sword is pointed at the now less confident young man. The blade glows almost red as it exults in the moment of conflict. The 3 men retreat under the threat. I find myself alone in the alley with a recovering young man. As I look at him, I notice something peculiar. Cat ears peek out from his black hair. He achingly comes to his feet. I look at him. "You're a beastkin." The man looks down. His clothes are ratty, and I can tell that he's lived on the streets for some time. I think on how my life could have led to this living on the streets, if not for... I am getting lost in thought. "Come on," I say. "I'll buy you a drink." The man looks up into my eyes. There is hesitation, but also hunger. I turn and walk down the street. I know he's taking a moment to debate whether or not he wants to follow me. But I hear the patting of feet as he runs to catch up with me. The pub I find is a little hole in the wall. The bartender doesn't show any prejudice against the beastkin. I take a seat at a table and wait for the man to join me. He hesitates, but sits across from me all the same. The bartender sees to our drinks. I take a sip of the ale and turn and look over the rim of my mug. "What's your name?" I ask after he sips at his drink. The man looks down. "Sorry," I say. "First, I should tell you my name. I'm Askilar." The young man looks up. "Max." I smile. "Nice to meet you, Max." A little warmth shows in Max's features as he takes another sip. "Nice to meet you, Askilar." From here, we are able to enjoy our drinks. "Why," he asks, "why are you doing this?" I shrug. I'm not prejudiced against beastkin. I couldn't just let them beat on you like that. Another round sees us loosened up. "Where are you from?" I ask. Max's ears twitch. "East. The drow destroyed my village." I find my circumstances not dissimilar to his. "You?" he asks. "Northwest. But really, I'm from all over." He looks uncertain. "What's it like being from all over?" I smile. "It's not so bad. Do some work here and there before moving on. I'm fond of investigating ruins." I think for a second. Honestly, things are usually ruined by time. Pottery and jewelry are common items to find, but I've found things of greater value. The sword makes a fuss about being compared to pottery and jewelry. The cat ears on the man twitch. I wish I could be like you. I frown. "What's stopping you? Surely you can get out there." He smiles wanly. "Beastkin aren't popular. Getting work is hard." I sympathize with the man and wish I could do something for him. He asks, "would you take me with you? I can carry your luggage." I feel guilty. I can't. His ears sag. I understand. There's an awkward silence between us. "Oh, take the boy, bearer. He can hold your stuff while we fight." I sigh. "We'd be traveling north if you were to come with me." The man's ears perk up while the blade is stunned. "North? We're going south. You want to get revenge on the demons, don't you?" I flick the overreacting sword. "I'll follow wherever you lead, Askilar." I smile, wondering if I made the right choice. We finish our drinks, and I pay for him to have a room at the inn. His ratty clothes are simple to replace with common robes. My wallet has taken a hit in recent days. I'll have to take on some work soon, but for tonight I settle into a quiet meditation. Or I would if not for the sword badgering me to continue along my southern progression. I put the pest out of mind as I dive into my soul world. I feel the tether with each spirit grow stronger, feeding me more chi with every passing moment. I wonder at the next stage of my evolution as a cultivator, to refine my own world into a ball of energy. It sounds like fantasy. But then the soul world itself sounds like a fantasy, despite how real it is to me. The night passes. As morning comes, I open my eyes. My eyes glow with a light I've never known. It lasts for only a moment before the world takes on its normal contrast. What was that? I asked the sword. Hmm? Oh, the light? The sword seems uninterested. Your soul world is feeding you with excess chi. It's harmless, but you really ought to put that energy to use. The demons would be a great conduit to. I ignore the sword and ready myself for the day. When I open the door, I find Max resting against the wall. I feel an eyebrow raise as he looks down. Ready? I ask. He nods his head. Good. Then you can take this. I pass him most of my traveling gear. He dutifully takes the luggage. Before we depart, we sit down in the kitchen for breakfast. It's an unremarkable meal of beans with light seasoning. But considering my counterpart's state, it might as well be a feast. The road meets our feet, while the sword grumbles about going the wrong way. Enthusiastic as Max is, he's unused to long marches. I take my time as he lags behind. We come to a rest early in the morning. Before us lies a great lake. Its surface is like glass, and we cool our feet in the water. It takes a while for Max to stop sweating. We're gonna be doing this all day, he groans. I chuckle. It'll take a few days, but you'll get used to it. There is silence between us for a moment. Why, he begins, do you live like this? As opposed to living on the city streets? No, what I mean is, you seem like you could make a living in a town, own a house. I've thought about it, but, I say, it's not in my nature. Come on. I stand and walk over to a nearby tree. Two sword-length branches come off of it. I toss one to Max. He fumbles with it before holding it between his hands. I take up a fighting stance. Attack, I command. At first confused, he hardens his resolve. His attack is clumsy, and soon he is disarmed. I make no criticism, as he once more takes up the weapon in his hands. Over and over, we repeat the process. Much as I'd like to say he's better at the end of our sparring, he's not. Patience, young grasshopper, the sword says from my hip. Talent takes practice. I cast the stick away and smile at my companion. We'll do this again. He smiles an exhausted smile. Pack up, we're moving. His shoulders sag as he collects most of the gear. Our march doesn't last long, but I have nowhere that I have to be. Night comes quickly, and I build the campfire. All the while, I teach Max the fundamentals of fire making. As we stare into the fire, I meditate. A spark ignites in my soul world. The peaceful meadows and forests ignite with a new chi, one of destruction. I marvel at how the beauty of life is replaced with another form of beauty. Smoke billows up from the world on fire. Careful, bear. The sword startles me out of my meditation. I look to the sword. It is easy to believe that destruction is an end, but truly it is a means. Relent on the doom you have ignited. Fire cleanses, but it also brings new life. I focus my energy on suppressing the flames. What remains is a charred landscape. I breathe in life and heal my soul world. What happens when I refine my soul world? I ask. I look to Max to see that he sleeps. The illusion will disappear and you will establish yourself as a chi-forming cultivator. You will dip a toe into the world of immortals. I absorb the words and think on what it means to be an immortal. Who knows, the sword says. Maybe we'll meet a few of the old gang. The notion of meeting other immortals is daunting after living with myths of such creatures. The night passes peacefully, and the next day's journey comes. We make even less progress as Max limps along. Days and nights pass. I hunt the wild game to feed us. Max is studious in his observation. I teach him the art of trap making, and we prepare them before the sun goes down. It's a productive time as I spend my nights in meditation. Do you ever sleep? Max asks. I look to him from my cross-legged position. It has been a while. Are you a spiritualist? I look to the sword. You're more like a cousin to spiritualism. Different practice. Not exactly, I tell my companion. Can you teach me? I smile. Sure. I guide him through the concept of nothingness. He meditates for a while, but the draw of sleep is too powerful. Night passes into day, and we come upon a village. The eyes are hostile as we make our way along the road. One old man with a cane comes up to us. Get away, demon! The old man curses Max, and I see the drooping of his ears. We're going, I try to placate the racist man. You shouldn't have brought your slave to our village. Begone. I restrain my impulse to draw my blade and cut the man down. He has a cane, the sword says. It could be considered self-defense. I sigh. Come on, Max. We hurry on our way, and once more we wander in silence. Max stops as I walk on for a step or two. Askilar, he says. I'm sorry, but I should leave. I measure his words. Some random bigot brings our friendship to an end? Just like that? Max's eyes well up. He chokes up. It's fine, Max. This happens from time to time. Besides, without you, I'd have to carry all of my stuff. Despite himself, my companion lets out a chuckle. I turn around and continue our journey. The days that follow see a strengthening of Max's legs. We need fewer rests, and he can go for longer. At night, we cultivate. Sleep takes him, while I continue. Our journey takes us to a small town. I detect some mild enmity towards Max, but it is subdued. The guild opens up to us. My coin has dwindled to a paltry sum, and I seek out the bounty wall. Patrons sit with ale and smoke as they observe us. There is only curiosity in their examination. The wall is layered with job listings. Anything from janitorial jobs to kill quests. By now, I've come to terms with killing for money. Max watches curiously as I scan the wall. A number of bounties show mugshots of bandits. I think about it for a moment, but I decide that I'd rather not hunt my fellow humans. One bounty shows a hunt for water striders. These can be dangerous foes, giant insects that walk across the surface of lakes. It'll be easy to draw the carnivorous creatures to shore, but the problem presents itself when too many of them attack. Still, it's the bounty I chose to take up. "You're going off to squash bugs?" the sword asks after I make my intentions known. Hardly seems a challenge. I ignore the blade and turn to leave the guild. Max follows dutifully as I pass through the city streets. Why do you choose this quest?" my companion asks. I shrug. Need to make money somehow. We set up camp near the lake. Max follows at a distance while I approach the muddy shore. They're out in force today, as I survey them. One has already noticed my encroachment. Water splashes as the bug runs full tilt to me. I wait patiently, sword in hand. It's all legs and teeth when we meet. My sword meets its mandibles. Chi flows from me into the blade, and I cut off a segment of the monster's mandible. A clicking shriek lets loose from the insect. It tries stomping me with a leg, but just ends up losing the member. I cut into it as it tries to flee to the water. "It's getting away," the sword tells me as if I don't know that. As it puts distance between us, I raise the sword over my head. Electricity courses through me as I use the Chilean's gift to breach the gap between us. The water strider doesn't have time to cry out as it's bisected. I set down to harvesting the token of my hunt before looking out on the other striders that take notice of me. The sword, despite its earlier reservations, revels in the combat. Hours pass as I reap my harvest. Finally, the sun dips down on the horizon. I collect the bounty and find Max. He looks to me enthusiastically as I give him a tired smile. I used more chi today than at any other time since I became a practitioner. Wordlessly, I pass my companion and find my way to our camp. We sit watching the campfire in silence. Max looks like he wants to say something. "What?" I ask. His eyes find my sword. "Why does your sword glow?" I chuckle. "It's not a common weapon." "Not common, bearer? That's the best description you have for me?" "I'm a legendary sword, damn it." I'm amused by the sword's tirade. Max looks with awe on my treasure. May I hold it?" The sword is still on a tear while I take it from scabbard and handle first, to my companion. His eyes grow wide as he holds it in his hands, but as soon as my fingers leave the weapon, the sword falls through Max's fingers. We're both alarmed as the sword hits the ground. What gives, Bear? Trying to get rid of me? I won't accept just anyone as my partner. Max doesn't hear its words, but he knows himself to be unable to hold the weapon. Where did you get this? He asks with reverence. I stoop down and pick up the sword. A ruin, I say simply. I leave him wondering as I turn my focus inward. My soul world grows with every passing day. It's in the forest of my heart I see the world alight with life. A buck chews on a mouthful of grass as it looks curiously at me. Our soul is one. I am not merely watching another creature. I am looking at myself, and the deer is looking at itself. You're close to the chi formation stage, the sword says. Soon you will refine your soul world, and you will extend your lifespan. I'm not old, but the promise of a longer life holds an appeal to me. Night passes peacefully.